Hey, thanks for being here this morning. We appreciate you spending some time this Friday morning. The first Republican debate has happened since then. We know what happened yesterday with the former president, and I wanted to get some perspective. I've been reading stories, who won the debate, how well did people do, but if you want to learn more about it, go to someone who has been there. Joining us right now is former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. Governor, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's great to be with you again. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I want to let's get straight to the debate, that debate night. How do you feel you performed in the debate the other night?
Well, first of all, it was a big victory for me to be on the debate stage. We met the polling requirement, donor requirement. A lot of people didn't think we'd be there. So it was an exciting moment. We made our case. We accomplished every goal that I had to make, which was to tell my depth of experience, to talk about my vision for America, and that we need to have new leadership away from Joe Biden and his dangerous policies. And so I was very pleased with that. Now, there's obviously some others that did well also, and I've learned a few things about these debates that sometimes it can turn into a food fight, and we didn't get as much time as some others. So we're going to remedy that on the next debate.
So when it comes to those things, when it comes to other candidates, reading what the poll number says, I equated this, and I mean this respectfully, that the first debate is kind of like a preseason football game, is that this isn't about winning that particular game, it's about performance. Do you think that it matters who the public thinks won that debate?
No, in fact, that's really not the right question. I think you can ask, say, who benefited or who lost, the winners and losers, because everybody had, a different equation there, but no single person would win that debate with 8 on there. And then secondly, you're right. This is not one of those debates that you don't perform well, you go home, you don't make it to the next level. As long as you can make your case, and as long as you don't make big errors in it, you're going to be able to advance. And so we're excited about the next debate, and I think we laid the foundation there. And so I thought it was an excellent debate in terms of really talking about substantive issues. I heard your comments on your news broadcast about the price of gasoline. Let me tell you, we addressed that, and we know as Republicans that we got to produce energy in this country. And I talked about that, and that's a big issue as we go into building our economy for next year.
Former Arkansas Governor and presidential candidate Asa Hutchinson is joining us. Former Vice President Mike Pence said that there were some big issues that weren't discussed enough on that debate stage. Were there some issues that you wish you had had an opportunity to address, or other candidates could have addressed that weren't addressed that night?
Well, the biggest challenge was they would bring up education, but not everybody had a chance to comment on it, Ukraine. And so we needed to actually spend a little bit more time on all of those. I thought that foreign policy really got a fair shake. Everybody's views got to be expressed there. I would have liked to have spent more time on the fentanyl crisis, on our border security issues. And I know that, Arizona has now had an influx because they closed some gaps over in Texas. And so I wanted to spend more time on that topic and go into that in more depth. I think we covered a lot of different topics, but, we could have spent more time on each of them.
What's interesting is after meeting you for the first time at that event in Tucson on border security, I did my homework, and your resume is extensive. And I don't know that anybody, and I don't know if that's the right forum for it, but there weren't a lot of people that got to hear the resumes of the people that were on the stage, and I think you're one of them, not just being a former governor, but with the DEA and what you've done in Homeland Security and being a Reagan appointee. I think those are things that Republicans would want to look at. Do you think that's something for the debates, or do you think that's your job as a campaigner to make sure people know that about you?
Well, both. And so I got that story out. I made sure that I made references to my experience with heading up the DEA. I talked about going to Mexico and working to bring down the cartels while I was head of the DEA, and applying those experiences to what we need to do today. So it is on the candidate. I made the case. I would have liked to have been an opportunity to talk more about the personal background and the depth of experience that brings, both as a former federal prosecutor, but also the fact that I lived in a mobile home, and I went from the mobile home to the governor's mansion, and it's a pretty good American story. So we'll try to weave some of those in the next time we have that opportunity on the debate stage. But it's on the candidates. We got to make the case, even though it's a limited amount of time.
So before I let you go, Governor, I've got to get your comments on what happened yesterday. Former President Trump indicted in Georgia at Fulton County, turned himself in. We've all seen the mugshot. Can you talk about your feelings about seeing that happen and the potential of President Trump being the nominee for the 2024 Republican Party?
Well, it's a sad day, and it's not a day that I rejoiced in, or any American that loves the presidency. And from my personal standpoint, while these are very, very serious charges, the Georgia case, the prosecutor should have deferred to the federal prosecution on it. That's usually what happened whenever I was a federal prosecutor and the cases overlapped. The state would defer and let the federal government go first. And so, that's my view on the case. Now, where we go from here, I've been very clear that I don't think we can win with Donald Trump. And so, as I supported him in 2016 and 2020, but, he's in my path to winning. And I think that I can bring people together, independents, to win in a 2024 November election. And that's what we have to have as a party. If we're going to save this country, we've got to start with new leadership that can forge a way to win in a November election.
But he has gained in support within the Republican Party since his indictments and since he's been in this trouble. What does that say about people's trust in the system, and what does that say about him as a candidate if he gains in popularity when more trouble comes his way?
Well, it's because Republicans believe the justice system has been politicized. It's been, and he's a victim. And, of course, he, drives that message as well.
Do you believe that, though? Sorry to interrupt you, but do you believe it's politically motivated?
I believe that he brought this on himself. But, sure, I don't think the New York prosecution is appropriate. I think it's politically motivated. I can't judge the Florida. It's a serious case, allegations, but again, it should have been deferred to the federal prosecution. So serious, I'm not doing that. But there is a sense among our Republican base that the Justice Department has not been fair, and that's been documented from the Durham report to the Russian hoax. So I agree with that. Now, that doesn't mean that Donald Trump hadn't brought much on all this on himself, but the Justice Department needs to be corrected. That's why I have a plan to reform the FBI, the Justice Department, and the 90 federal law enforcement agencies. That brings them more accountable, makes them more accountable, brings transparency, and reduces the jurisdiction of the FBI. This is the way you have to approach it.
Governor, I appreciate all the time this morning, and I sincerely hope you'll come back as we approach the next debate and we have some other issues. I'd love to get your perspective.
I look forward to any time to be with you, Mike. I appreciate your coverage.
All right, thanks. That is Governor Asa Hutchinson.